Yeah.
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 So she's trying, I guess. Well, we can go ahead and start up. So I'd like to call the December Complete Streets Advisory Committee regular meeting to order. It's 3:32. And let's start with attendance. Got Cindy Berry, Tom Olson, myself, Patrice Otoski, and don't have. So those are members in attendance. Also got Mark Perry, Parks and Rec, and Deb Jones, Planning and Development. Have anyone on the committee received any communications? No. Okay. All right, so let's turn to the minutes. So has everyone had a chance to review October and November minutes?
I just had one correction of the special meeting minutes for the November 21st. And the header information I misspelled Thursday, so there's an extra B in there. Otherwise,
Any others? I did have a comment that I wanted just to be sure we're all clear about. And it has to do with the number of concept plans that FHI is preparing. So in the October minutes on page 2, 2, 3, like the 6th bullet down, up to 6 plans are included in the study contract. Yeah, Mark, do you remember the contract stipulated 6, I think? I think it did. And
yeah, I'd have to look.
up to 6, okay. And in the November minutes, page 2. Yeah, second page of November minutes under old business. Workshop to review segment corridors for bike improvements was kicked off by FHI on the complete street study. 5 corridors need to be decided upon from 7 proposed alternatives. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. We may have discussed it and agreed that 5 was appropriate based on their scope of work or, other options. But I just want to be sure that we all are on the same page with respect to this.
Well, that's a contract question. I just put down what I heard at the meeting, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
So.
Fine. So, Francisco, do you have any clarification on just what we're doing here?
Our contract says 5.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Okay.
So,
All right.
so that I'll correct the October meeting to say
Good.
5
All right.
by 6.
You'll change October to 5. Okay,
No problem.
very good. There. All right. That's all I had.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Oh, second.
All right. Minutes approved. Okay. So now let's move into new business. So we're gonna have an update on the complete streets plan from FHI. So take it away.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. We've been hard at work on the Complete Streets plan, and there are several elements of our work that are continuing in parallel. First of all, we had an addition to our work, an extra work item, which is to assist the town in completing a wayfinding plan for the Crosstown Greenway. And so that's something our landscape architecture team and myself are very active with at the moment. We started with taking a look at the alignment of the greenway, the routing of the greenway as submitted for the grant application and as currently documented by Connecticut Deep. We made some fairly minor routing recommendations for alternative routing and some options. That was reviewed by committee 2 weeks ago, I believe. And they provided us some feedback on some of our recommendations, and so we are incorporating that into our wayfinding work. So we now have a confirmed routing alignment for the greenway, of which the greenway splits off in some areas where there's an on-road alignment and more of a trail alignment. And so we've mapped all that out. We've also identified all the locations that we believe wayfinding signage is necessary at basically at trailheads, at any decision points where the route changes course. We've come up with a palette of sign types. We haven't designed the signs yet, but we've come up with a list of sign types, are working on basic quantities of the signage, with the intention of putting a price tag on it all so we can get to Mark so he can build into the capital budget. And then we have some follow-up work to do on the actual design of the signs. As part of that, we've been tasked with doing some branding work and developing a logo. We've got some concepts in motion. Mark, I'm not sure if Phil's advanced anything your way yet, but we've got 3 different logo concepts that we've developed, and I'm happy to send your way if Phil has not done so already.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, all right. So I have a call with our landscape architecture team at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to review the status of everything. I know the logos are ready to go. I think we're just waiting on some other work to be able to package some things together and send you things in a more complete way rather than in bits and pieces. So we're happy to get the logos in front of you. Probably the routing and wayfinding map, identifying all the recommended locations. And as I promised you earlier this week, by this Friday, we intend to get you a cost estimate for the total signage package so that you can build into your budget.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Are there any questions on that crosstown work that we're doing? All right, it's a fun project, right? You've got this established greenway. It really just needs some branding and some wayfinding to help bring it to life. So it's a fun extension of our work. With respect to the Complete Streets plan itself, we've got a couple of different items that are in progress right now. One being the concept plan development, for which we are currently working on Route 1, and we're nearing completion on Route 1. We've got 3 segments on Route 1. The most western segment is the closest to completion. I'm in the process of reviewing those drawings right now. And then the other 2 are in progress, the other 2 segments. Once we complete Route 1, we'll move on to 215 and Route 117. Mark, there was some discussion at our focus group meeting at the end of November about the fact that there had been some concepts already developed for Route 117, and Mark forwarded me what he had on file, at least what he was able to share, and they were really very broad brush concepts. There wasn't anything detailed there, which is fine. It just means we're starting from a fairly blank slate with respect to specific recommendations for accommodations along that corridor. All right, did anyone have the impression that there was some very well-developed plans along that corridor that?
Yeah, Deb, you shared
Not
with
very
me.
well developed, but
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Deb Jones shared with me what the planning
yeah,
department had in their files.
And that was from Groton Utilities. That was their plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
okay,
so,
all right.
yeah, that's what I shared with you.
Yeah, and Mark, as you recall, it was really kind of like a highlighter on a map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, which is fine, right? We know that people have been thinking about this corridor for that type of use, so it provides some support for what we're doing. We just need to work out the details. On Route 1, things are coming together well. The biggest challenge, we talked about this a little already, the biggest challenge is going to be access management along that corridor. There's a lot of driveways. That's one of the biggest challenges. So implementation of a facility there really needs to go hand in hand with access management along the corridor. All right. Otherwise, we continue to think it's promising.
This is Tom Olson. I have got
Yes.
one question. In our packet today, on the follow-on, we saw the road study analysis from Stonington. And I
Yep.
looked at what, and that was along Route 1 also. And I'm just concerned, are we getting, if we've got a process in place to try to get a similar road study analysis
Yep.
for Route 1 in Groton, or for a
Yes.
portion of it at least. Are these going to be compatible with each other, or I guess, because I saw like it comes up with all these recommendations of hard, medium, and easy implementation recommendations, that type of stuff. Are they going to be in sync with what you're doing already?
That's a fantastic question. We do many of the road safety audits for DOT. And so we're familiar with what the process for developing those and the scope of those. And what is most likely, and it could be that we end up, if you do a road safety audit for Route 1 in Groton, it could be end up that FHI completes that work. What I expect is that they will in fact be compatible, that the road safety audit, the team will, whoever does the work, will refer to our work, to the plans for bicycle connectivity, and we'll simply integrate those into their recommendations. A lot of the recommendations we're making are consistent with best practices for complete streets and traffic safety that is central to a road safety audit. We are not recommending any changes that would be adversely impactful to traffic operations along the corridor. You know, by example, we're not recommending closing any traffic lanes, reducing traffic lanes in order to accommodate the bicycle facility concept, which is for the most part a side path. So from that perspective, we won't be undermined by an argument that traffic congestion is a safety issue and the operations need to be maintained and not reduced. So I think this puts you in a good position. And I think what you'll do is you'll end up getting more robust bicycle recommendations out of a road safety audit than you otherwise might if you did not do this work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Let it be noted for the record that Lori Hendrickson is here.
Yeah.
You have that?
I have it.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for us on our progress with the concept development? We, as I mentioned, we're continuing on Route 1. We expect to have Route 1 finished by the end of the year. And of course, we're coming up against some holidays. And then in early January, moving on to Route 215 and 117. So I expect by mid-January, we will have completed our first drafts of all the concept development. We'll be able to make those plans available to you for review. And at our meeting in January, we'll potentially be able to, depending on your agenda, to devote time to answer any questions and review those as needed. All right, as I mentioned, in parallel to that, we are developing the toolbox portion of the plan. The toolbox provides all the standards for the bicycle facilities and pedestrian facilities as well. Specific standards, you know, how wide do you build something? What sort of signage do you provide? How do you cross a roadway? You know, what are the details? So it will provide a toolbox that can be applied for the concept corridors in question. They're kind of like the detail sheets for the concept corridors in some way, and specs, if you want to think of it that way. But it will also be a reference for the town in developing other facilities across the town at later dates that are outside the scope of the work that we're doing. So it's intended to be a manual for the town. We had been advancing with that work, and it had been my intention to get that to Mark at the end of last week, so that it was available for review and discussion at this meeting. However, AASHTO at the beginning of last week released their long-awaited fifth edition of the Bicycle Facility Design Manual, which in the bicycle and pedestrian planning community, we've been waiting for at least 6 years. It's been promised every year for 6 years. And it finally came out, and it is about 600 pages, more than twice the length of the existing guide. And we built the toolbox based upon the standards of the existing guide, along with some other manuals such as MUTCD and some of the NACTO guidebooks. So we are in the process of reviewing the content that we've developed for the toolbox to ensure that it's up to date and compatible with all the new standards presented in the new AASHTO guidebook. So there's a little extra work involved with that, but the timing's good because it came in just in time for us to ensure that the manual, the toolbox we provide you, is as state-of-the-art as possible. So there's going to add a little bit of work, a little bit to our time frame, but you'll get something that reflects the best practices currently. So I expect that our update of the toolbox and our adding additional content and updating all that information will continue into the first week of January. And I'm aiming to be able to deliver that draft toolbox to you prior to our next meeting as well. All right. Looking at our overall schedule, we're about a month off of where we had planned to be as we developed our scope and schedule at the very beginning of the process. We had intended to be wrapping things up in December. We've got another full month ahead of us. So we need the month of January for production and to get you work product, at which point we will be ready for a final public presentation, I would say as early as first week of February. All right, that was quite a bit. Are there any questions for us? Any direction you'd like to provide us?
I think you're heading in the right direction. I don't really have anything to suggest at this point. Just
My only concern would be if there's contractually, if there's funding issues and stuff going into new calendar year with Mark, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
Okay, that'd be,
Yeah. I can check, but I'm pretty confident that we're all set.
Okay,
So,
that
looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. That's about all we have for you for now. Like I said, we don't have a lot to show you right now because there's a lot that's in motion. But when we meet next month, you'll have quite a bit in front of you. You'll have something to look at, and we'll have quite a bit to discuss. So I would ask that for this meeting next month on your agenda that you reserve adequate time to get into the details as needed.
I think for me, it would be helpful to have as much as you feel is appropriate up
Yes.
front so that it can be kind of digested before our meeting and that I have an opportunity to look at things.
Absolutely. And we'll aim to get you content at least a week in advance of the meeting.
That sounds good. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we can take over from here.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy holidays and a happy new year.
You.
Thank
You
you.
too.
You too.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye. Well, that sounded all very positive to me,
Other than the delay, but.
other than the delay.
Hey, it's a month, it's not bad.
It's worth it.
And I understand this whole ASHTO thing, it's a big deal for him. Good excuse.
Yeah, that is a good excuse.
So what do you think a public presentation would look like in terms of format, or how are things usually presented?
Well, at least one or two of them will be here in person.
Mhm.
I would expect Francisco to be here in person. I don't know the others. But we would hope to have a large turnout.
Okay,
So it would need to be in the council room.
If
larger
you
room.
want to have it at the annex, I mean, there's also the library or Thrive.
Yeah.
Oh, Thrive
Yeah,
might
I
be,
was thinking, I
Thrive
mean,
might
that's
be.
where we did it last time and we
Yeah.
had the big table.
Oh, right.
Hold them together and if there's going to be boards and things. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just have to figure out
Yeah.
their format to see which works best, but.
Yeah, I just don't, we're making a presentation to the public, but I don't know how much public input we're looking for other than final comments and that type of stuff, right?
I think we would welcome comments, right?
Because I think this is still this is better than, it's still just a draft document at this point. I'm trying to go through my mind how it was handled for your Parks and Rec master plan. You had a session where the guys walked the public through, you took questions and stuff, but
Right,
there wasn't that much really
Right, and
change
then-
per se
right. and-
requested.
Yeah, and the feedback that they heard at the public presentation was incorporated into the
Right.
final.
Will there be something up front for the public to look at before that presentation?
Yeah, well, that's
so you
what
can
we
get,
that's
you
what
know,
we gotta
good
figure
comments out
out.
of them. Yeah.
Right.
I know that there have been several email lists that have been collected, whether it was here or at Thrive when we did the open participation evening. So can we get an email out to those folks who have participated so far? Just so they can put it on their calendar.
I just need to clarify what I'm hearing. So when we schedule this next meeting and we go public with this, are we expecting to take whatever that feedback is and say, here, take it and fix it? Or are we just done, right? Because if we're done, when they present they've got to have limits on their contract with the town, right? And if they're done, I don't think we should sell it as this is a public input meeting. I think it should be sold as,
Oh.
here's the presentation,
Yeah, not
Right.
input.
right?
Yes.
But
So
that now
just-
we're coming back to you with all the input
Here's,
and
here's the final
plan.
product, right? And not sell it like, we're gonna take your input and go change things again.
Well,
No.
That's my concern.
We're welcoming questions and clarifications,
But
but-
here's the plan.
but there's not going to be significant changes to this plan.
Yeah, I think
So-
it, I think
so
it,
it's a presentation.
yes,
So
It's a presentation
yes.
with an open
be very
discussion.
How
clear.
you advertise.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
can, we have people here that can answer your questions about the final
Yeah.
product
Right.
is like where I think,
And
that
we
was
sh-
my impression.
And and there should be as much information on the Greater Groton page for this project as possible, because that's really where we would want to direct anyone that we're contacting through email. We don't want to engage in a individual back and forth between a person. We want to say, this is where the material is for inspection. It's on the Greater Groton page. So it's fine to contact people that we have an email for and direct them to the Greater Groton page.
But we want people to come if we're putting all the effort into doing some
Absolutely.
kind of a presentation.
Absolutely. So I believe there was a sign-in sheet. I'd have to check and see if I have a copy of it, but do you recollect having a copy
No,
of the
so-
sign-in sheet or?
FHI.
Well, it doesn't,
It
I
would've
thought
been
there was
FHI. Sign-in sheet.
a way that this Greater Groton can send a distribution out saying that there's something, you send it to the Greater Groton, because you register with that.
The entire community that's registered.
Yeah.
Should be able to receive.
See,
Yeah.
We should get a copy of that sign-in list from them
That's
then.
what I'm gonna.
Yeah, at Thrive, there was definitely a sign-in list, and I think there was here too, and we had an earlier focus group.
I'm just looking at our
Can you
complete
reach out to
streets,
Francisco?
trails master plan on Greater Groton right now, and they list the project status as we've completed the project management, data collection,
That's true.
community engagement. And then our next step technically is complete streets network, produce a network map identifying new and improved bicycle and pedestrian facilities, connections, address, identifying safety concerns. The following step is complete streets facility concept plans, identify the 3 complete streets demonstration projects that will focus on intersections, streets and segments and stuff. And then complete streets toolbox, which we just talked about, and measuring recommendations, and then the action plan, and then the final report. So I don't know where in this section we're inserting the public presentation.
That would be at the end.
After the final report,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what needs to be clear, like, this is the final report from all this work. And then whatever the town chooses to do with the final report is up to the town, the powers that be, right?
Yeah.
But I think we need to be sure that we're very clear that this is it and we're not changing anything right now. The implementation of the plan and the implementation of the report is subject to whoever is handling the budget and making the policy decisions. But I think it needs to be tidied up and presented to the public in the way that they understand that.
So how does this Greater Groton page be updated? Is this through your office?
I mean, it would probably start with Mark and what language, and then, yeah, we
Then it
have
comes to
a
you.
master administrator in our office.
Yes, Mark's listed as a person there with
Yeah.
Rory and Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't put the information in.
Right.
I think it goes.
But you
to-
tell somebody,
But you need to tell her what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what, I forget his name.
Yeah, I know, somebody on your staff used to do it.
Yeah, somebody on our staff used to do it. They left. I don't know where they went.
Yeah,
okay,
Maybe in April, we'll be able to get this moving forward again.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
just letting you know,
We'll figure
I'm just
it
reading off the.
Yeah.
Keep me honest here.
We'll keep checking.
Yeah, good. I'll still be here, maybe.
But he's the bottom line.
All right. Good stuff. Okay. Ready to move on? We touched on the road safety audit for Stones and Route 1 with Francisco. But I had seen just little clips of it on Facebook actually, but I had not seen the full report until just a couple of days ago. So I've gone through it. You know what's in the packet is it's the official report, and then it's also their public presentation, like a PowerPoint follows it. And they overlap. They're virtually the same content, just one's more of a presentation content. But I was impressed by its thoroughness, its evaluation of existing conditions and all of the data that was collected and presented on traffic and on crashes and on the state of the roadway, the lane widths, the location of sidewalks and no sidewalks, and all of that is really valuable information. And then it's light on recommendations because it really doesn't have an engineering scope of work. It's more of, okay, here are some kind of simple things that we would recommend. And that's where I think having a road safety audit of our Route 1 would dovetail very well into it. Because you would get all of that analysis that we're not getting now. The full walkthrough with observations and all of the more specific information that would help to justify the recommendations. So I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to know where the town is with respect to making an application for a road safety audit. That's been kind of a long time process that Public Works and the Traffic Authority have to agree on. The beauty of it is, it's fully 100% funded. Town doesn't spend any money on road safety audits. So, and there's no application deadline, just whenever it gets submitted, goes into the queue, and it typically is scheduled. I don't know of any road safety audit application that's been denied, so I think it's almost guaranteed.
What's the source of funding? Who pays for it if the town does not?
It's a DOT funded program. I don't know where the money originates, whether it's federal or whether it comes directly out of the state budget, but
So we paid for it, one way or another.
Yeah.
Well, it's taxpayer funded, but it's not our particular pot of money. It's
Right.
the bigger pot of money.
right.
Yes.
So far, I haven't heard anyone object to it.
So you think it's state rather than federal funding?
I don't know that for a fact. I don't know, because road safety has become so prominent that federal funding is definitely flowing to road safety. Like the Safe Streets for All program is federal money. It's beginning to disseminate into all the state regions. I think our region is receiving some finally too. So I don't really know. FHI would know. We want to ask them.
When was the last time the town had a audit?
Groton has never had one.
We've never had one. So how would we as a advisory committee, would we just request that the town go after a pot of money to do this and hire
have
somebody to do this?
No, we've requested and Greg's the guy that's in charge of submitting that, and he reported at last month's meeting that the report was in the process of being submitted to the state. He's gone through the traffic authority and there's a Public Act 24-4, section 51 gives you all the
Connecticut,
rules as
okay.
far as how to submit. And then, and so he did all that and was submitting it supposedly at the end of last month. So hopefully he's done it by now.
Okay.
So we did apply already. All right.
Should be done by now.
It should be submitted. That's coming, but he's just not here to tell us, give us an
That's
update.
I think it can only help
Oh, for
and
sure.
help us in terms of being ready for funding and certain projects and.
It's almost mandatory for funding of a project like this to have that done helps immensely.
What's the time frame on something like that? Does it take like a
It-
year to do
It's
one?
gonna take time. My hope is that it would happen in 2025.
I was trying to
Just
figure it out.
looking at
because-
the flow chart in here, there's a lot of steps.
Yes.
So Stonington actually released two different reports, one audit or part of the audit that was done in June, and then the other one that was just completed in November. So it may be that it's an.
I think that's
full
the
year,
same project. It's just two different.
but the information in the reports are different. So.
But it's the same project
Yes.
area.
Mhm,
Okay, I think one may have been a preliminary study
okay,
followed up by the official
report,
report.
okay.
I have like a big process question or comment or request that I'd like to throw in at this point because I respectfully request that we get the minute or the agenda packet before the day of the meeting because I can't read this during the day. I need it a couple days in advance to be able to sit and go through everything. Which is why we didn't move to approve the minutes last time because we didn't have a chance to read everything. And all of these things in here, it's a lot of, as you said, to digest.
Mhm.
And if you're tied up all day working, you can't read that. So if we could get the agenda packet in advance, at least a couple of days, that would be helpful, I think, for me. And I can't speak for others, but it would make the meeting a little bit better, I think. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. All right. So moving on to old business, we don't have Public Works here to update us on knowing Main Street status. I have not heard anything about it. There was a report at our last meeting that there was going to be the next public meeting very soon before the end of the year, but I assume the project's been delayed. No one's heard anything? Okay, so we'll move on. We just talked about road safety audit for Route 1. Planning has received a couple applications that include some sidewalks, is that right?
Yeah, so, as you probably know, if we have subdivisions or site plans, they're required to, put in sidewalks unless they specifically get either a waiver from subdivision or get another option, approved. So there's a couple of things that are in the works, a couple of them that are recently completed. A length of sidewalk was constructed along Colonel Ledyard Highway, which was the final link between sidewalks on Route 184 and the Deerfield subdivision, and is getting a lot of walkers
great.
right now.
Now, was that a requirement
Of the
for?
subdivision.
Of the subdivision?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
subdivision, yeah. Take 5, the oil change facility that's down here on the corner of Meridian and Route
Oh,
1.
yeah.
They just installed their 10-foot wide sidewalk, which is required in that zone. So all along the downtown area, as things redevelop or develop, the sidewalks have to be 10 feet wide.
It's like the Chelsea Groton Bank.
Exactly, like Chelsea Groton, that's right. There's a car wash that has been approved where Northern Lights is. We had a pre-construction meeting today, and that is another 10-foot wide sidewalk that will be in front of that building.
Is that on the south side of Route 1?
It is, it
Okay,
is. It's near the mattress firm place and,
okay.
yeah.
Well, those could be incorporated into FHI's recommendation for a side path, because side path minimum would be 10 feet. But there's probably not much more space than 10 feet in a lot of these frontages anyway, so.
That's true.
So it could
That's
be
true.
that we're actually building some of what they're gonna recommend.
Yeah, and
That's great.
they'll have to, both sides of the road will have to build as they
Mhm.
reconstruct or have new applications. And then under review, we have a couple of smaller ones, which are in the mixed use village zone, which only requires a 5-foot wide sidewalk. So an old house that's in disrepair next to, it's across from Buddington Road, near the nursing home facility there, will have a new structure with a 5-foot wide sidewalk in front of it. And then Public Works is designing a 5-foot wide sidewalk along Aquanic Plains Park that will go between the Citgo station and the entrance.
Great, that's great.
It will not be right along the road as originally intended. There are wetlands there and there are large trees that are gonna be, but still it'll be a sidewalk other than the trail that Mark has that goes around Aquanic Plains.
Great, that's great. Okay,
Well, part of that trail will become the sidewalk.
Although, yeah, we just got the revised plans. I wasn't exactly sure, but right. It will be incorporated into the corner right there.
all right. All right. There was a, it could have been another item, but it just occurred to me on my way over here today. And there was a public information meeting on the Groton Long Point Bridge replacement on December 3rd. That was the night before my surgery, so I wasn't gonna attend that, but did anyone?
I did.
Oh, good. Well, what did you come away with?
Well, no, the state was I did ask a question about, can you extend the sidewalk over from the end? Because right now there's a gap. At the end, you're gonna have the sidewalk go all the way up between the two bridges. Okay, one going over the Amtrak and then the one going over Palmer Cove. But it stops there, and then there's about 160 feet to get you to Groton Long Point, okay, which is still town property. And that way you can then get into more accessible, because Groton Long Point does have some sidewalks
Yeah,
around in that
you got
area.
East Shore Road. that has a
Yeah, to
sidewalk?
get to East Shore Road
Yeah.
at that junction right there.
Uh-huh.
And I did ask that question, and they basically said that they don't want to get involved in it because because of grade issues, and that it's outside the basic scope of their right-of-way areas that they've taken over for the bridge. Now,
Mhm.
the state is doing all the planning and anything, even though this is all town-owned right-of-way, okay?
Mhm.
So if we want to extend, it's gonna have to be a town project as opposed to a state project. But they did not latch on, and they basically said, we've already contacted the town and expressed our concerns. Because that's how it went, but I did ask the question for the record.
All right.
But it sounded like Gregory knew the answer, but he asked somebody to ask the question and I did.
Okay,
I didn't shame him into it. I guess I just wasn't good enough at doing that.
okay,
They had a lot of horsepower at that meeting. The state did.
right. Now they are raising the elevation of the bridge.
Yes,
so
they
the
are,
roadway's
so-
gonna be elevated, so to transition down to the existing roadway condition is, and it's very narrow. I can see where they would look at it and go, that's a pretty big deal. We don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So particularly going in because of the property lines and the right of ways and I think they've maxed out what they want to take out. I can't fault them either. I mean, I
Yeah, they're
understand.
taking on a lot.
Yeah.
So that's.
And you're already getting the good deal between the two, but it would be nice to have the last 160 feet done.
Hmm.
But it sounds like something for putting Greg's to-do list
Hmm.
with his sidewalk money, the CIP for that stuff.
Mhm. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Answers that question. Okay, any other input from anyone? No? All right, then let's adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Second
Okay.
or 13. Second, please.
Second.
I don't think I can second. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.